What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. As we start the new week, taking a look over here at the Bitcoin price chart, we can see that Bitcoin this morning, as the markets were opening in the broader markets, poked above the height set over there prior to the FTX collapse back in November. I did test out something new this morning, markets in the morning, to try to catch the markets as they were opening to see if we could see some direction happening. And just a couple of minutes before the markets opened is when we actually saw this poke happen right here for Bitcoin. Not able to sustain itself. However, it does officially mean that we've now set a higher high, at least in relation to FTX. Now, throughout the weekend, Bitcoin was able to sustain that 200-day moving average. We saw this in more places throughout the market, such as Ethereum continuing, working on its 10th consecutive green day. We'll see if that maintains, but 10 green days in a row. And then seeing that the altcoin market total 2 has also been holding above that 200-day moving average, which we've been talking about for the last 7 months. Wyckoff accumulation, the lows continuing to hold. Looks like I've already got a line there. The lows continuing to hold, and now working through what was a problem child for us prior to going into spring. And of course, the day after that happened is where CZ Binance went after FTX. Now, I mentioned in the live stream this morning, and as we talked about last week, late last week, typically when we see these liquidations happen right in here, like we had for Bitcoin, as Dylan Leclerc points to say this is the largest short liquidations that we've seen since July of 2021, something that we were looking for last week to see if those shorts could get liquidated. We saw it. Typically, we see prices pull back, but somehow these prices have still been able to maintain themselves all throughout the extended holiday weekend in there. So just like extra strength emerging in there. Usually we do see a pullback happen in here. So kind of just to sit and wait and see. And I'm even surprised to see we actually took out the height over there from pre-FTX. So we officially have a higher high for Bitcoin. During the live stream, I pointed to this. Boy, this would be the ultimate pain trade here for those who bought the top of the market, laser eyes and diamond hands, and those who sold the bottom of the market, as we happen to actually have a trend channel line up here, hitting multiple points going on here for Bitcoin. I got asked in the live stream, do I think that there's an extended wave 5 happening here where we're going to go above 69,000? That is typical. A lot of times whenever excitement returns to the market, the first thing everybody thinks about is actual bull market and actually going into new all-time highs. I wrote a really long newsletter this weekend on Sunday, the 27-minute recording over there on my Substack, The Rally Heard Around the World in Bitcoin and Crypto, that we've triggered everything that happens when bottoms come in, and we've even seen it happening over here in the relative strength index. As I talked about in the live stream, that in RSI, in a bear, you're going to stay really with that 60 being your resistance level. And on the daily time frame for all of 2022, that's what ended up happening in there, is that was our resistance. This moment has obviously marked a clear breakout in the RSI. And then when you look at monthly time frames, we could see that the 40 level did end up becoming our support. So in a bull market, you want to see that 40 can hold. Just barely did 40 come in and provide the support at 40.35, holding there for Bitcoin. So as we hold, everybody thinks, bull run's back on. But when you look back to these moments in time of what happened here, so like when you look at like Federal Reserve interest rate hikes, or you look at yield curve inversions that have happened, like we talked about last week, where you have the 1 month inverting the 2-year yield. When that happened, it was this moment right here. It was just within 2 weeks that Bitcoin started firing back up. Then you look at all the other things. You look at weekly RSI, you look at dipping into oversold. What have we talked about? We've talked about moving average crosses, all these different things that end up happening that mark the bottoms. But what these all do is they mark the bottoms, right? They don't mark new bull runs. They don't mark we're going into all-time highs. They mark major pivotal moments in the price chart. So back in 2018, when we had the reversal and the bottom come in and prices started firing way back up, they went back into retrace. And then it was still 18 more months later before the prices ended up going actually into a breakout. And what was happening with the market at that time when this breakout happened? The stock market was breaking out into a new all-time high. So anytime we get any type of excitement that returns back to the market, the first thought people go through is, are we in a bull market or is this a bull trap? which is a poll that was run by Cointelegraph yesterday. They said a bull run or a bull trap. Of course, I select bull run because it's the only option that's anything bullish. But as for bull trap, the majority of participants think it's a bull trap. But the fact that we're only presented with these two options goes to tell that's how people's thoughts are. Either we're in a bull market or we're in a bear market with a bull trap. But not that it can go into an actual really big retracement, right? But still, that doesn't mean it's going into new all-time highs. And when we look at all the data on what happens in these reversals and when these things happen, this moment did not signal we were starting a bull run. It just signaled time to go and take a lot of this back. The market's completely wrong-footed, which if you weren't there during that time, it was the same stuff we see now. It's the same thing you see at every reversal. Retail's always going to be laser eyes and diamond hands. We're going to 100K, or they think we're going to 1K because there's 25% unemployment. We're all stuck in our house, or everybody's trying to get 12K and just get a little bit lower. It's always going to be that retail's on the wrong side of it. But I guess the point I'm really just trying to make is that even if prices start firing up quickly, it still doesn't necessarily mean bull market. It's the annoying thing we talked about during all of 2022, a retracement. So I've stuck to my guns the whole time for a retracement. It's where I think we're headed. As for a bull run, as for an extended wave 5, as for prices to go set new all-time highs, the one element that is required based on the 2013 bull run, the 2017 bull run, and the 2020 and 21 bull run, every single one of them, the Dow Jones setting a new all-time high. So to even entertain a new all-time high, that's an element I would have to require to see first. Show me that element, I'll entertain it. Till then, I'm gonna cool my jets on that idea. And while we really have a long ways to go to even be able to get to the retracement levels. So let's talk about just the structure that's happening over here on Bitcoin. I've spent a lot of time showing the inverse price chart of all of this, right? It's how we were able to find the top of Bitcoin back in 2021. It's also what the bottom of Bitcoin looked like back in 2018 and 19. And then essentially what we saw here, like we just saw Dylan LeClaire point out, the largest short liquidation since July of 2021. And that when we had this liquidation happening here for Bitcoin back on December 4th of 2021, that was the marker that the bear market had begun. On that day, I put out a video titled "The Bear Strikes the Bitcoin Price Chart." For nostalgia purposes, if anybody caught on to what I did right there, I put "The Bull Strikes the Bitcoin Price Chart," as we signified the same moment happening in here that we've been watching for so long. So actually a little bit of a surprise to see those prices continue to pop up today, as the anticipation for me really has been that there will be a cool off that happens in here. But the general structure of how these things typically end up playing out is something along the lines of this. And this can vary on the height at which we end up going to before we ABC, and the depths of these ABCs can be varying in size as well. Your typical structure is going to be back to 18.3, then back up into here, and the range for that is quite large in that it can be a new high taken above the August height over here, or come up shallow as we see happen back here in January of 2022 before an ABC emerges back down to these levels right back in here once again. You know, talking through this so much, I'm starting to see a lot of different people talk about this on Twitter. So many different people saying $25,000 and then we stall out for the rest of the year. I've seen this in multiple places, multiple technical analysts, multiple content creators pointing to this. I don't know if it's just a regurgitation or if everybody is seeing the exact same thing. So I don't know if other people are seeing the same thing or if other people are just regurgitating the things that I say. And that's a weird thing for me to say because it puts me on a pedestal of ego and saying, hey, the whole world's copying what I'm saying. But it's really not coming from an ego place. It's just a concern thing. Is everybody seeing the same thing, or are they just regurgitating the same thing that I'm saying? Because if everybody's seeing the same thing, then it's probably going to be wrong. But this is your normal stuff for Bitcoin. This is normally what you do end up having in here. And then we pull back to a 702 retracement, which just so happens to line up with these levels in here, right? That would be your typical structure right there. But that happens to be $25,000 back to $18,000. It would take several months. And that's what a lot of people are predicting out there. That is normal. That's what you would typically see. So for anybody wondering out there why people are saying $25,000 and then stalling out for the rest of the year, it's because that's what you typically get. This all goes back to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, rolling back up to wave 4 within wave 5, going on to wave 7. And then what do? You pull right back up in here and then ABC. right? It's all this kind of stuff like we talk about on XRP, right? What we have happen in here, right? Then the liquidation comes in here. Then you pull back up to these heights over here. Where is that? That's going to be your $25,000 price level. Then what happens? It stalls out for a long time, right? So we see a lot of that being regurgitated out there in the market, something that we talk about tremendously on here. So I don't know. I probably need to do some research and see why other people are saying the exact same things that I say and see if they're finding it from a different thing. And if so, then that would provide confluence for the reason why. If not, then it's just regurgitating these same things that we talk about. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, rolls back up to wave 4. Then we stall out. We A, B, C for a long time, right back down to these levels, which would be right in here. And then eventually it gets up and goes. So I don't know. I'll do some research on my own to see why I'm seeing that so frequently on Twitter right now. But I guess the point of what I'm making is that we're seeing so much of this that so many people are anticipating it now. Whenever that happens, it's like, okay, is everybody seriously coming to the same conclusion, or is it just because they've watched my videos and it's being regurgitated? If they're all coming to the exact same conclusion without watching my videos, and it makes me wonder, well, is that really what's going to end up happening? And is my theory even more right that this thing is actually just going to come up here and then turn over and plunk on itself hardcore? Like we've been talking about with Ethereum, to say we had a crash, retrace, reaccumulation, 4.236 extension, reach out, like we saw with Ethereum back in 2017, 2018, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, breakout, 4.236. Ethereum eventually found its support over here just below the all-time high to eventually go back into a retracement, then roll over and go straight down, and then really go down, which is where Bitcoin would be right now. But what's the difference in here is that it didn't have that like go back up to the wave 4 at $25,000 and then ABC its way back down, then eventually break out. What did Ethereum do? We could see in there, it just keeps going, right? It leaves people behind. We know a lot of people got wrong-footed in here right now. They definitely would love to have a very clean setup pulling back to $18,000 to let them in a clean manner to get out. What would be the pain trade? The pain trade would be something like that just keeps on ripping up, not giving them an opportunity for re-entry. So I haven't ruled this out as being the potential circumstance happening in here, and things do just end up getting extremely aggressive back to $40,000, which is the reason why in my poll that I did back in December, I said, what comes next? Bitcoin equals $40,000 or Bitcoin equals $12,000? Because just like at the top, everybody wanted that little bit more in Bitcoin, right? We're at $65,000 when that poll was conducted. Everybody wanted 100K, right? They wanted just a little bit more. In this one, they wanted the Bitcoin was at $17,000 when this poll was conducted. They wanted just a little bit more to get down there to that $12,000. But there was a very specific reason why $40,000 was picked. And I didn't say 45, I didn't say 50, I didn't say 55 for a 702 retracement or new all-time highs. $40,000 was the number picked because of that. Because of that scenario right in there. Everybody wanted a little bit more in anticipation of a new bull run beginning. But what would happen if we actually bounced from where we were at right now and we went straight back to $40,000? And then what would happen with market sentiment if we actually went there very quickly? So this isn't ruled out either. And we just have to see more market action play out here on the Bitcoin price chart. But definitely so far until this point, until things start changing on the chart, the thing that's happening here is this has been just like all reversal structures that we look at, whether that's going to be XRP, and this is where the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 video originated at over 2 years ago, is discussing how reversal structures end up playing out, and that as we pull up here and you have that final sell-off that takes place in here, what do? You pull back up into here with liquidations, which we saw right in here, right? And then it pulls straight back down again, back to the support level, and then finally shoots up to the heights over here, right? So if you saw that, what you would expect, you'd expect to pull back down to 18,000 and then shooting up to where? Just about 25. And that range can be a little bit higher. It can also be a little bit lower into 23s, but that level right there, and then things really stall out for some time in here. And so I'm seeing too many predictions of that out there after we've been talking about this for months at this point. And I need to find out if people are regurgitating this or if this is something someone else is coming up with based on some other strategy. But that's what it looks like so far. So I'll definitely agree. This is the thing we've talked about. This is what it looks like so far. That would be a logical thing to be happening in here, and that our current phase is somewhere like right in here for Bitcoin. But I think the biggest pain trade to the cryptocurrency market is the one we saw for Ethereum. So I don't rule that out, and I keep that in mind. But still, none of this, you could even see this. If we do shoot straight up like Ethereum, we're not talking all-time highs. Even if we do this whole thing, we're not talking all-time highs anytime soon. So I think like just having the mindset about all-time highs isn't really something to really be thinking about, in my opinion. At least when I'm producing content and thinking about the market, all-time highs for Bitcoin is not something I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about the retrace, man. And I'm thinking, how is the altcoin market going to respond to a retrace? Considering the altcoin market did do Wyckoff accumulation for the last 7 months, and holding on top of that previous all-time high from back there in 2018. And that when we saw this actually happen back in 2016, it did lead to a bull run for the altcoin market in a big way. And if Bitcoin, goes into a retracement and the altcoin's ripping and roaring, I wouldn't be surprised by that. But we just have to wait to see how this market's going to play out before any discussions of that. And we're just not there. And we just know that because of structures and reversal structures that we're just not there yet. We're way off from something like that with where we're at right here. But definitely a lot of indicators and behavior in markets and fundamental things and macro markets giving hope for a big reversal to come in here. But just knowing that even when those reversals came in 2018 and all these signals flashed and the market did reverse in 2018, it did not reverse into a bull market. It reversed into a retrace. And then it still went back to the lows and spent 18 months in here before something else happened. So it's keeping that in mind, that all of this does not mean the market is now signaling what happens when we're going to go set new all-time highs. That is not what it is signaling. It is signaling a reversal back to retracement levels. What it does from there is typically dependent upon what the stock market is doing. But so far, we have triggered all the different things that happen in here in structures for reversals and in behavior for bottoms to be in, for reversals back to retraces to come. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm just, cooling the jets on the all-time high talk. All of my focus is heading to the top of this range, and if Bitcoin is actually going to come back first before heading to the top of that range. I think that's the major thing focusing on right now. And I think the astonishing thing was going for the last 3 days after getting the biggest short liquidation in a year and a half, and somehow prices maintained themselves. And then this morning during the live stream, seeing that we actually took out a new high over here, because we can see normally that is not what happens. Normally you do get a quick pullback. Normally the price pulls back very quickly after that liquidation happens. Quite impressive, but still a little bit perplexing. Which path are we choosing to get back up to the top of the range? And for me, right now, picture's not clear. This is where I think we're heading, but I think there's a little bit to do before we get there. And me contemplating, am I wanting to add more and buy more of the dip if it gets down here? Still undecided, because I went ridiculously heavy down here. But my overall general sentiment of the market is super bullish right now, as we absolutely have full-blown breakout of bearish behavior into bullish behavior, while the US dollar currency index just keeps on trucking down. So still just waiting on Bitcoin to see if it's going to keep going up, or if it's going to have to backtest 18.3 before heading back to the top of the range. At least that's my thought process. My thought process is we're bullish and we're heading up, but uncertain on what's going to happen here in this range if 18.3 has to be tested first. But tomorrow we're going to actually spend more time talking about Wyckoff accumulation happening in here for both Bitcoin and for the altcoin market. And talking a little bit about sentiment too. I was actually going to talk about sentiment in this video, but we're just not going to do it. What we typically see in reversals happening is that retail's always going to be on the wrong side no matter what. And whether it's at tops or bottoms, it doesn't matter when. You take the peak of 2017, they're on the wrong side. Take the bottom of 2018, they're on the wrong side. Peak of June 2019, wrong side. Bottom of March 2020, sell-off. C19 sell-off, wrong side. Laser eyes and diamond hands, wrong side. We're going to 100K November 21, wrong side. They're always going to be on the wrong side. And so right now we know there's a lot of disbelief calling out there. Hey, don't trust the rally. I don't have belief in this rally. This is a bull trap. Don't fall for it. Then it starts to morph into anger. It starts to morph into like people saying, I'm shorting the market. So right now we're just in disbelief phase. We're in the don't trust it. Then we kind of reach like the everybody's shorting it stuff. So they're like mad at the rally. And then we see the new shorts get liquidated. And so we're not there yet. We're still at this disbelief phase, but we'll talk more about that tomorrow. We'll talk more about Wyckoff tomorrow, and we'll talk more about the spring phase that happened in here for Bitcoin. But I think this video is just getting a little bit too long for that. But otherwise, I'm telling you, man, I'm a bull unapologetically. But it's the altcoin market curiosity that has me so bull. As you know, my thoughts are Bitcoin just a retrace. That's really the best I can come up with for Bitcoin in here. And if we're talking about a retrace, what type of percentages are we looking at for Bitcoin? Maybe 100%, maybe 150%. That's not enough to get me like super excited about a market. It's really not. What it has me excited for is what is the altcoin market going to do during a moment like that if that's what's coming for Bitcoin. That's what has me excited. So don't confuse that. My excitement of Bitcoin turning around has to do with I'm super excited to get 96% on my Bitcoin or 150% on my Bitcoin. It's not. It's to say what's going to happen with the altcoin market during a moment like that, as it is double tapped the previous all-time high with a very same structure that it did back in 2016. So we'll follow up with that again later. Otherwise, mixed start to the week. Today is Tuesday, but it's the first day of broader markets being open. We can see Bitcoin about flat, altcoin market about flat after an absolute crazy rally that has started ever since the new year began. So as Bitcoin has now peaked above the FTX sell-off level, it's still just paused for the last 3 days to see whether or not does it have to whip itself back down, or do we go ahead and move back up to the top of the range. It's really, for me, just a waiting game to see how that's going to play out. So till then, I'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. We're going to try it again. Markets in the morning live. The idea of that is to start maybe about 30 minutes before the stock market actually opens to see how markets are acting. If there's any type of economic data that's going to be released right when the market opens or prior to the market opening, to see if we can watch how broader markets are reacting and if crypto is reacting to it at the same time. So we'll give that a shot again tomorrow morning. We'll try that for the rest of the week, see if we can smooth it out and find some processes. Bear with me as we're trying to figure that out as it goes. It's going to be clunky. There's going to be moments where I'm like, "Duh." But practice makes perfect, right? So otherwise, I will catch you guys tomorrow. Amazing to see Bitcoin hold up, the altcoin market hold up, getting through the 200-day moving average and still just maintaining it for these last several days. Very surprised to see that it actually still just held here after that liquidations. But we'll see what comes over the next day. We'll check it out tomorrow morning. But all right, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.